Every year, archaeology uncovers something new, a tomb, a tool, a forgotten name. We catalog them, put them in museums, and add a footnote to our textbooks. But 2025 was different. This year didn't just add chapters to history, it corrected them, erased our assumptions, and frankly, embarrassed our timelines. It felt like the Earth itself decided to speak up, and what it revealed, well, it changed everything. Let's start with Pompeii. We thought we knew Pompeii. Buried, studied, catalogued, a closed book. But in 2025, new rooms emerged from beneath the volcanic ash. Not just villas of the wealthy, but workshops, bakeries, and taverns, frozen moments of panic, wealth, and survival that completely contradicted what we thought daily life looked like before Vesuvius erupted. We saw frescoes that weren't just decorative but were menus, price lists, even political cartoons. We found lockboxes not filled with gold, but with iron keys and property deeds, suggesting a thriving middle class of landlords and merchants. These weren't ruins, they were interruptions. History blinking right before our eyes, showing us a society far more complex and modern than we ever imagined. Then, we go high above the Andes, where LiDAR technology, peeling back centuries of jungle and stone, revealed something impossible. A vast, engineered road system, older, longer, and far more complex than the famous Inca Trail we all know. These weren't just footpaths for llamas, this was infrastructure. We found rest stops, military outposts, and signal towers, all connected by paved highways stretching for thousands of miles, some dating back centuries before the Inca Empire even rose to power. It's proof that civilizations we often called primitive understood logistics, governance, and control on a scale we simply refuse to credit them for. They didn't just conquer mountains, they commanded them. Finally, across Europe, from the castles of Scotland to the monasteries of Italy, a strange pattern emerged. During routine restorations, workers found crowns, scepters, and royal regalia hidden inside walls, under floorboards, and sealed in forgotten crypts. These weren't lost items. They were deliberately hidden, not just decorations, but emergency burials of power itself, concealed during times of invasion, plague, or civil war. It raises an uncomfortable question. How often does history hide itself on purpose? How many dark ages were simply times when power went into hiding, waiting for the chaos to pass? It suggests that the official record, the one written by the victors, is only half the story. The other half is sealed in the stones, waiting. And this was only the beginning. Because once the ground started giving up its secrets, it didn't stop with roads and walls. It went deeper, into cities we never knew we'd lost, and kings we never knew existed. When you think of archaeology, what comes to mind? Dusty shovels, careful brushing, and maybe a eureka moment when a piece of pottery confirms a theory. We imagine scientists methodically proving what they already suspected. But what if archaeology stopped confirming our theories and started breaking them? Welcome to 2025, the year the past fought back. The year lost cities and forgotten kings emerged from the earth not to fill in the blanks, but to tell us our history books were wrong from the start. Imagine a pyramid. What do you see? The golden sands of Giza, the Nile River, and the iconic shape pointing towards the sky, aligned perfectly with the stars. For over a century, we believed this monumental architecture was a singular Egyptian invention, a technology that spread, got copied, and eventually faded. But earlier this year, deep in a region thousands of miles from Egypt, a team stumbled upon something that completely shattered that belief. It was a pyramid, but not as we knew it. From the satellite images, it looked promising. A regular, geometric shape hidden beneath centuries of jungle overgrowth. The expedition was funded on the assumption they'd find a regional temple, maybe a minor king's tomb, something that fit the local context. But when the first trenches were dug, the team hit stone. Not the local limestone or volcanic rock they expected, but a type of granite that had been quarried and transported from 100 miles away. That was the first red flag. Moving multi-ton blocks of granite is a massive undertaking, suggesting a level of organization and engineering far beyond what was thought possible for this culture at this time. As they cleared more of the structure, the second anomaly appeared. It wasn't aligned with the cardinal directions north, south, east, west like nearly all other major ancient structures. It wasn't aligned with the solstices or equinoxes either. Its orientation was off, seemingly random. But ancient builders, especially those creating something this monumental, never did anything randomly. So, what was it pointing to? The team is still working on that puzzle. But the leading theory is that it aligns with a star constellation that was prominent in the sky 10,000 years ago, placing this pyramid in a time period that makes absolutely no sense. Then came the final, baffling discovery. Inside, there were no hieroglyphs, no familiar religious iconography. The style of construction, the tools used, the very concept of building a triangular tomb for the ages. It all screamed Egypt, but every single detail proved it wasn't. This wasn't a copy, it wasn't cultural exchange. This was parallel innovation. It was as if two people who had never met, on opposite sides of the world, independently invented the exact same, incredibly complex machine. This discovery forces us to ask a terrifyingly large question. How many other advanced civilizations rose and fell, leaving behind monuments we have yet to recognize, simply because they don't fit our neat, linear story of human progress? This pyramid shouldn't exist, but it does. And it's a silent, stone testament to a history we are only just beginning to understand. From one jungle to another, let's journey to the heart of the Mayan world, the legendary city of Tikal. For decades, Tikal has been the poster child for Mayan genius. A sprawling metropolis of towering temples, intricate palaces, and advanced astronomical observatories. The official story of Tikal was one of a sophisticated, peaceful society of scholars and priests who mapped the heavens and lived in relative harmony until a gradual, mysterious decline. That was the story. But in 2025, skeletons started talking, and they told a very different tale. It began in an area of the city that was considered non-elite, a residential district. Standard archaeological procedure, but then they hit a burial. Not a single, reverent tomb, but a pit, a mass grave. This was unheard of in the ceremonial heart of a major Mayan capital. Mass burials imply crisis, plague, famine, or warfare. As they excavated, they found dozens of skeletons, men, women, and children, all interred without the usual rites or grave goods. Isotope analysis of their teeth and bones delivered the next shock. A significant portion of these individuals were not from Tikal. They weren't even from the surrounding region. Their chemical signatures indicated they had grown up hundreds of miles away, in areas culturally and linguistically distinct from the Mayans of the Petén Basin. These were foreigners, outsiders. Who were they? Were they invaders, refugees, slaves? The evidence on the bones pointed to a grim conclusion. Many showed signs of violent death and healed fractures, cut marks from sharp blades. This wasn't a peaceful decline. This was a violent event. What's more, the dating of this burial pit places it far earlier than the terminal classic collapse that supposedly ended the Mayan Golden Age. It suggests that Tikal was experiencing severe social upheaval, foreign incursions, and violent conflict long before the history books say the trouble started. The pristine image of the Maya as purely peaceful astronomers and architects has been shattered. These new findings paint a picture of a civilization under immense pressure, fighting for survival, and absorbing waves of outsiders in a desperate struggle to maintain its world. The skeletons of Tikal have given a voice to the vanquished, revealing that beneath the grandeur of the temples lay a foundation of conflict, resilience, and a brutal fight for existence. The Maya weren't just stargazers, they were survivors. And just when the world of archaeology was reeling from these paradigm-shifting finds in the Americas, the sands of Egypt stirred once more. There are certain names that echo through history, and in Egyptology, none is louder than Tutankhamun. The discovery of his tomb in 1922 was a once-in-a-generation event that redefined our understanding of pharaonic wealth and power. For a century, every new find has been measured against it. And for a century, nothing has come close, until now. In the spring of 2025, a team using advanced ground-penetrating radar was surveying a lesser-known valley, one long considered archaeologically exhausted. They weren't looking for a king, they were mapping geological strata. But the radar returned an image so clear, so impossible, that they thought the equipment was malfunctioning. It showed a series of deep, man-made voids. A complex of chambers, arranged in a way that signaled not just a tomb, but a necropolis, an untouched royal necropolis. The initial excavation was conducted under a complete media blackout, and for good reason. What they found was so significant, it immediately drew comparisons to Howard Carter's legendary discovery. The first chamber they entered was not a tomb itself, but an antechamber, filled to the ceiling with artifacts, gilded chariots, inlaid chests, statues of forgotten gods. And unlike Tut's tomb, this one showed no signs of ancient robbery. It was perfectly sealed, but the real treasure wasn't the gold. It was the inscriptions. On the walls, on the papyrus scrolls, on the sarcophagi themselves, were names, royal names. Names of pharaohs and queens that have never appeared in any king list or historical record. This wasn't just a new tomb of a known pharaoh, this was an entirely new dynasty. A lost lineage of rulers who held immense power but were, for some reason, systematically erased from history. This discovery doesn't just fill in gaps in the Egyptian timeline, it rips the timeline apart. It suggests that the established succession of dynasties might be completely wrong. There were parallel power structures, rival royal families, and entire chapters of Egyptian history that were deliberately wiped clean. We are now faced with the monumental task of not just adding a new page to Egypt's story, but rewriting entire volumes. This find, born from a routine geological survey, has created more questions than answers, and proves that even in the most explored corner of the ancient world, Egypt still has the power to leave us speechless. A pyramid built in the wrong place, at the wrong time. A mass grave that rewrites the story of a legendary city. A lost dynasty of pharaohs emerging from the sand. Each of these discoveries fundamentally changed our understanding of the past. But here's the most unsettling part, the pattern that connects them all. None of these finds were the result of a brilliant theory or a targeted search. They weren't found by design, they were accidents. The pyramid was found by a team looking for something else entirely. The skeletons of Tikal were uncovered during a routine survey of a boring residential area. The Egyptian necropolis was detected by a geological instrument that wasn't even looking for tombs. These are moments where history slipped through the cracks. They are the result of mistakes, of straying from the map, of looking where you're not supposed to look. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If the biggest discoveries of 2025 were all accidents, what else are we missing simply because we're not looking? How much of our history remains hidden in plain sight, ignored because it doesn't fit the narrative we've already written? The past, it seems, isn't just waiting to be found. It is waiting for us to be humble enough to admit we might have been looking in all the wrong places. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the groundbreaking discoveries of 2025. If you love history that challenges what you thought you knew, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. There are more stories to tell, and more lost worlds to uncover. We'll see you in the next one. History is a story we think we know. We read it in books, see it in museums, and assume the most important parts have been found. But what if the biggest discoveries weren't made by careful planning? What if they were total accidents? In 2025, a series of astonishing, unexpected events forced us to ask a terrifying question. How much of our past is still completely unknown, just waiting for a lucky break to reveal itself? Museums don't expect miracles. Construction crews don't plan for revolutions. But in the year 2025, history stopped being patient. It decided to rewrite itself. Not with a whisper, but with a roar. It all started with a sound that should have been impossible. Deep in the Badlands, a team from the Royal Dinosaur Museum was conducting what they thought was a routine survey. They were mapping out a previously explored fossil bed, mostly for training new students. The work was slow, dusty, and predictable. They expected to find a few common bone fragments, maybe a tooth from a small herbivore. Instead, a paleontology intern, barely a week on the job, hit something with her shovel. It wasn't the dull thud of rock, it was a sharp, resonant clack. At first, they thought it was a large, unusually shaped stone. But as they carefully brushed away the layers of sediment, the true scale of the discovery began to emerge. It wasn't a single bone, it was a complete skeleton, articulated and almost perfectly preserved. And it was a species no one had ever seen before. This wasn't just another dinosaur. It was a massive, bipedal carnivore, larger than T-Rex, with strange, blade-like crests on its skull. But that was only the beginning of the jackpot. As they expanded the dig site around this incredible find, they uncovered an entire ecosystem frozen in time. A flash flood or a sudden landslide had buried this spot millions of years ago, creating a perfect snapshot of life. They found the remains of smaller creatures this predator had been hunting, fossilized plants they'd never cataloged, and even the fossilized imprints of skin and feathers on several specimens. Scientists were looking at evidence they didn't even know to look for. For decades, our understanding of this particular period had been based on a handful of scattered, incomplete skeletons. We had built an entire chapter of Earth's history on fragments. This single, accidental discovery proved how much we had gotten wrong. It was a humbling, almost terrifying reminder that what we know about the past is entirely dependent on the lottery of preservation. Chance doesn't just play a role in history. Sometimes, it holds all the winning tickets. The Dino Museum jackpot of 2025 wasn't just a win for science. It was a warning that the story of our planet is full of blank pages, and we've only been lucky enough to read a few of them. While paleontologists were reeling from their discovery on land, another accident was unfolding hundreds of miles away, deep beneath the waves. A commercial survey ship was using advanced side-scan sonar to map the seabed for a new undersea data cable. The route had been charted and cleared decades ago. This was just a final, routine check. Suddenly, the sonar operator saw an anomaly. It was a massive, geometric shape, far too regular to be a natural rock formation. It was sharp, angular, and undeniably man-made. The operator marked the coordinates, assuming it was probably an old shipping container or maybe a forgotten piece of industrial debris. When the remotely operated vehicle, ROV, was sent down to investigate, the control room fell silent. On their screens, illuminated by the ROV's powerful lights, was a ghost. It was a warship. Specifically, a destroyer that had been reported missing in action during the height of World War II, presumed sunk by a submarine with all hands lost. But the ship wasn't a wreck. It was sitting upright on the ocean floor, almost perfectly preserved by the cold, oxygen-deprived water. Its guns were still trained forward, as if scanning the horizon for a threat that never came. Paint was still visible on its hull. The ROV glided along the deck, its cameras peering into portholes. Inside, the preservation was even more eerie. They saw tables still set in the mess hall, charts laid out in the navigation room, a coffee mug sitting on a console. It was a vessel frozen not just in metal, but in human intention. This wasn't a violent wreck, it was a tomb. Subsequent analysis suggested the ship hadn't been sunk by enemy action at all. It had likely suffered a catastrophic internal failure and engine explosion, perhaps, and sank so quickly that no distress call was ever made. The crew was lost, but their final moments were captured, sealed away from the world. For over 80 years, history had recorded a battle that never happened. Families had mourned sailors they believed died in combat. The return of this lost ship wasn't just about correcting a historical record. It was about the stories that get lost in the noise of war. It proved that history doesn't fade, it doesn't disappear. Sometimes, it just waits in the dark, silent and whole, until a chance encounter brings it back into the light. From the depths of the ocean to the muddy banks of a quiet river in the Netherlands, the year of accidents continued. A dredging crew was clearing a channel in the river Vaal, a routine bit of maintenance to keep the waterway navigable. For days, their massive crane had been pulling up mud, rocks, and the usual modern trash bicycle frames, old tires, shopping carts. Then, one afternoon, the crane operator felt a different kind of resistance. He lifted the dredging claw, and as the mud and water sluiced away, something long and thin glinted in the sunlight. He initially thought it was a piece of rebar or an old pipe. But as he lowered it onto the barge, the shape became clear. It was a sword. A long, double-edged sword, caked in centuries of river silt, but unmistakably a weapon from a bygone era. Archaeologists were called in, and their excitement was immediate. The sword was dated to the High Middle Ages, around the 13th century. It was beautifully crafted, with a distinctive pommel and crossguard, and remarkably well preserved. But this wasn't Excalibur. It wasn't the legendary sword of a king pulled from a stone. This was something far more real, and perhaps more important. An X-ray revealed an inscription inlaid in the blade, a maker's mark from a workshop previously unknown to historians. This wasn't the sword of a famous knight from a well-documented battle. This was likely the sword of an ordinary soldier, a mercenary, or a local lord whose name is lost to time. He might have lost it crossing the river, or dropped it in a skirmish, or been killed and sunk to the bottom, his story ending right there. The discovery of this one sword was a powerful reminder of the countless lives that were lived and lost without ever making it into a history book. We learn about kings, queens, and generals, but what about the millions of others? Their battles, their triumphs, their decisions, all of it gone, washed away like silt in a river. This sword, pulled from the mud by accident, represented all of them. It was a tangible link to a life that was just as real and complex as our own, but which left no other trace. It whispered a fundamental truth: the history we know is just the highlight reel. The full movie, with its billions of forgotten characters, is a story we can never truly know. These accidental discoveries of 2025: a lost world of dinosaurs, a ghost ship from a forgotten war, a lone sword from a nameless soldier, they were more than just lucky finds. They were a challenge to everything we thought we knew. They proved that history isn't a finished book, but a dynamic, hidden landscape, with treasures and truths buried right under our feet, waiting for a clumsy shovel or a random sonar ping. And it all led to one critical, game-changing question. If pure accidents could reveal this much about our past, what would happen if archaeology stopped just digging and started looking for these hidden histories on purpose, with technology that could see through time itself? The answer, as we would soon find out, threatened to unravel the very timeline we live in. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past as fascinating as we did, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. You won't want to miss what happens next. Timelines are comforting, aren't they? They give us a neat, orderly progression from past to present, a straight line we can follow. A causes B, which leads to C, simple, clean, but what if that line isn't straight at all? What if it's tangled, broken, and full of things that just don't belong? In 2025, that comforting illusion shattered. Artifacts began to surface, anomalies that refused to fit into our tidy historical narrative. They weren't just curiosities, they were glitches in the matrix of our past, objects that whispered of forgotten timelines and histories we never knew existed. Each one was a puzzle piece from a box we didn't even know we had, and as we tried to fit them into our understanding of the world, we realized something profound. The story of humanity wasn't the one we'd been told. It was something far stranger, far more complex, and in some ways, far more terrifying. This is the story of the artifacts that broke time itself. First, let's talk about the pyramids. Not the ones you're thinking of, standing majestically under the Egyptian sun. These were different. Found in regions far from the Nile, buried under millennia of earth and ice, these structures were older. Far older. Radiocarbon dating pushed their origins back beyond the first pharaohs, beyond the invention of writing, beyond the dawn of what we called civilization. They were built with a precision that defied the supposed technological limits of the era. Who built them, and how? We had always pictured our deep ancestors as simple hunter-gatherers, struggling for survival, huddled in caves, but these monuments told a different story. A story of organized labor, advanced mathematics, and a profound understanding of astronomy. Someone, tens of thousands of years ago, was quarrying, transporting, and lifting multi-ton blocks of stone to create structures aligned with celestial bodies we hadn't even mapped yet. It was a terrifying thought. It meant that a sophisticated, powerful civilization existed and then vanished so completely that they left behind only these silent, stone ghosts. They were older than dynasties, older than writing, older than comfort. These pyramids didn't just challenge our timeline. They suggested that our entire history was built on the forgotten ruins of a world far more advanced than we could have ever imagined. It was a humbling, chilling realization that we weren't the first to reach for the stars. Then, things got even stranger, closer to home. Imagine you're in a modern, bustling city like Manchester, England. You see skyscrapers, traffic, the familiar pulse of the 21st century. Now imagine construction workers digging a new foundation for a skyscraper, and their drills hit something, and yielding, not bedrock, something man-made. They dug further, and what they uncovered sent shockwaves through the world of archaeology. It was a road, a Roman road. Perfectly preserved, perfectly aligned, and still astonishingly functional after 2,000 years. This wasn't just a small fragment, it was a network running for miles beneath the city, a ghostly grid underlying the modern one. And it wasn't just in Manchester. Similar discoveries were made in Paris, in Cologne, in cities across what was once the Roman Empire. It was as if the ancient world was reawakening right under our feet. We had always thought of the fall of Rome as a definitive end. A collapse, a civilization that vanished, replaced by something new. But these roads told a different story. They suggested that civilizations don't just vanish, they get paved over. The infrastructure, the knowledge, The very footprint of the past was still there, a foundation we had unknowingly built our own world upon. It was a powerful reminder that history is not a series of replacements, but of layers. We were just the newest layer, spread thinly over a deep and resilient past. The Romans weren't gone, they were just buried. Their engineering, their ambition, was still there, a silent testament to an empire whose roads were literally the bedrock of our modern world. From the stone of ancient pyramids and the paved roads of Rome, our journey takes us to the freezing cold of the north. In the high Arctic, as the permafrost began to thaw at an unprecedented rate, it gave up its secrets. One of these secrets was what could only be described as a Viking time capsule. It wasn't a deliberately buried chest, it was an entire settlement, flash frozen and preserved in a state of impossible perfection. We're used to finding Viking artifacts as rusty swords or fragmented pottery. But this was different. This was life, arrested in a single moment. Inside the remains of longhouses, they found wooden tables set with bowls, woven blankets still folded on beds, and leather shoes lined up by the door. The level of preservation was mind-boggling. They found clothing that you could still see the vibrant colors of, tools with their wooden handles intact, even dried fish and herbs still hanging from the rafters. It completely changed our perception of the Vikings. We think of them as legendary warriors, figures of myth and saga. But this discovery grounded them in a stark reality. It wasn't about legends, it was about logistics. It was about the daily grind of survival in one of the harshest environments on Earth. We saw the intricate detail of their craftsmanship, the ingenuity of their daily tools, the warmth and texture of their lives. It was like looking through a window directly into the past, a past that was not just about raiding and conquest, but about community, family, and the quiet, stubborn business of living. The frozen ground didn't give us a legend, it gave us a people. Pyramids older than Egypt, Roman roads beneath our feet, a perfectly preserved Viking world. By now, looking at these disparate, impossible artifacts, one thing was becoming disturbingly clear. History wasn't the straight line we thought it was. It wasn't a neat progression from primitive to advanced. It was layered, messy, a chaotic collage of rising and falling civilizations, of forgotten technologies and lost knowledge. We were standing on a geological strata of human experience, and each layer held its own secrets. The timeline we had so carefully constructed was a comforting fiction, a simple story told to make sense of a complex and often contradictory past. These artifacts were the proof. They were the anomalies that broke the narrative. But they also hinted at something more. As we dug deeper into these mysteries, we began to see that some of those buried layers of history were darker, stranger, and more unsettling than we ever wanted to admit. The past wasn't just a foreign country, it was a labyrinth, and we were just beginning to realize how lost we were inside it. The story was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. Stick with us and subscribe, because what we found next would change everything. Not all archaeological discoveries fill us with a sense of wonder. Some don't inspire awe, they demand honesty. They force us to confront the uncomfortable truths about our past, the parts of history that aren't so glamorous. These are the discoveries that reveal the darker side of civilization, the stories written in bone and blood. Let's face it, history isn't always pretty. Sometimes, it's a horror story, and the most chilling part is that it's all true. We're about to uncover the skeletons that our ancestors tried to hide, the silent warnings left behind in stone, and the human tragedies that shaped the world we know today. Forget the gleaming temples and heroic statues for a moment. It's time to look at what lies beneath the surface, where the real, raw story of humanity is waiting. Imagine a place where the gods weren't benevolent figures or abstract symbols of hope. Imagine they were painted on the walls as warnings, as instruments of terror. Welcome to Huaca Yolanda in Peru. Here, archaeologists uncovered murals that were anything but comforting. The imagery was violent, visceral. It depicted sacrifice, conflict, and a divine power that was enforced through sheer fear. These gods demanded blood. They weren't there to offer solace or guidance in the gentle way we might think of religion today. No, this was religion as a tool of control, a way for the ruling elite to maintain their power over the masses. It's a stark reminder that faith wasn't always a source of community and comfort. Sometimes, it was a weapon. The art at Huaca Yolanda isn't just a collection of ancient paintings. It's a testament to a society held together by fear, where the divine was a threat, not a promise of salvation. It forces us to ask a difficult question: how often has belief been twisted into an excuse for brutality? The answer, as history shows, is far too often. These painted gods don't speak of a golden age, they scream about an age of coercion. Now, let's travel from the ancient temples of Peru to the heart of London, to one of the most famous and imposing structures in history, the Tower of London. Its story is filled with tales of kings, queens, prisoners, and executions. We think we know its history, that it's all written down in neat, official records. But what about the stories that were never written? What about the people who were completely forgotten? Deep beneath the chapel, within the tower's grounds, archaeologists made a startling discovery: human remains. Not just one or two, but piles of skeletons, buried without ceremony, without markers, without names. Who were they? We don't know for sure. They could have been prisoners who died of disease, workers who perished during construction, or victims of some long-forgotten tragedy. Their identities are lost to time. They are the anonymous, the unrecorded. Their discovery is powerful proof that even our most well-documented history is incomplete. It's a history written by the victors, the powerful, the literate. But for every king whose name is remembered, there are thousands of ordinary people whose lives and deaths went completely unnoticed. These skeletons at the Tower of London give a voice to the voiceless. They represent the countless individuals who built our world, lived in it, and died in it, without ever making it into the official story. They remind us that history isn't just about the famous names. It's about the silent masses who have been left out of the narrative. Their bones tell a tale of a past that is far more complex and far more unequal than the history books often let on. Picture a Roman war camp, a place of discipline, order, and military might. It's a temporary city built for soldiers, a machine designed for conquest. It is, by its very nature, not a place for families, not a place for children, and certainly not a place for a baby. And yet, at a Roman fort in Germany, archaeologists found something that shouldn't have been there: the tiny, delicate skeleton of an infant, carefully buried within the camp's walls. This single, heartbreaking discovery shatters our clean, clinical image of the Roman army. It raises so many questions, none of which have easy answers. Why was a baby in a war camp? Was this a secret birth, hidden from the commanding officers? Was the burial an act of mercy from a grieving parent, a desperate attempt to give their child a proper resting place in a hostile environment? Or was it something darker, a ritual sacrifice, or the result of a tragic accident? We can only speculate. But what this tiny burial proves, with gut-wrenching clarity, is that the grand machinery of civilization, even one as organized as the Roman Empire, was never as neat and tidy as we imagine. It was messy, it was complicated, it was human. Behind the legions and the emperors were real people living real lives, filled with love, loss, and impossible choices. This baby's grave is a quiet but profound monument to the hidden, personal tragedies that unfolded in the shadows of great empires. It's a reminder that civilizations weren't just built on strategy and stone. They were built on human hearts, and sometimes on human heartbreak. And yet, despite the darkness, despite the sacrifices demanded by painted gods, despite the silent graves of the forgotten, and the heartbreaking tragedies hidden in war camps, humanity kept going. We didn't collapse under the weight of our own brutality or sorrow. We kept building, we kept experimenting, we kept surviving. This resilience, this relentless drive to push forward even when faced with the worst parts of our own nature, is perhaps the most incredible story of all. It is this very drive that led to discoveries that would not only change our world, but would completely revolutionize how we see ourselves and our place in the universe. Thank you for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden stories of our past, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. The year 2025 wasn't just about uncovering objects. It was about exposing continuity, revealing the threads that connect our modern world to a past far more complex and resilient than we ever imagined. The ground gave up its secrets, and with them, a new story of humanity began to unfold. It showed us that history isn't a series of isolated events, but a continuous, flowing river of human experience. What we thought were sudden revolutions were actually the culmination of centuries, even millennia, of quiet, steady progress. The discoveries of 2025 didn't just add new chapters to our history books. They forced us to rewrite the entire introduction. They showed us that the echoes of our most ancient ancestors are still ringing in our ears today, if only we learn how to listen. The past, it turns out, is not a foreign country. It's the foundation upon which our present is built. One of the most profound revelations came from a place we thought we knew, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. For decades, we saw it as a grand, ceremonial center, a cathedral on a hill built by hunter-gatherers for purely ritualistic purposes. It was the exception that proved the rule that complex religion came before settled life. But in 2025, a different story emerged from the soil. Archaeologists unearthed what they had long suspected but could never prove, the humble remains of domestic life. They found hearths still stained with the soot of ancient fires, grinding stones worn smooth from preparing grains, and the faint outlines of residential structures nestled around the monumental pillars. This wasn't just a temple, it was a home. This discovery fundamentally shifts our understanding. It suggests civilization didn't burst forth in a Neolithic revolution. Instead, it evolved quietly, gradually. The lines between hunter-gatherer and farmer, between sacred and secular, were far blurrier than we ever thought. Göbekli Tepe wasn't an anomaly, it was a snapshot of a long, slow transition. People lived there, they worked there, they raised families in the shadow of those enigmatic T-shaped pillars. This discovery implies that the very idea of community, of settling down and building something permanent, was growing alongside spiritual beliefs, not in opposition to them. It was a dance between the daily grind and the divine process that took generations, and it tells us that the roots of our cities and societies are planted in much deeper, more ancient soil than we ever dared to believe. But the earth didn't just reveal stories of human ingenuity. It also uncovered tales of profound loss and sudden, catastrophic change. Across the globe, from the submerged coastlines of the North Sea to the arid deserts of South America, the geological and archaeological records of 2025 spoke of ancient disasters with a terrifying clarity. Core samples from ancient lake beds showed layers of ash from supervolcanoes we never knew existed. Sub-bottom profiling of the seafloor revealed the unmistakable scars of colossal asteroid impacts, sending tsunamis across entire continents. And tree ring data, combined with ice cores, painted a vivid picture of abrupt climate shifts, sudden, brutal ice ages, and devastating droughts that lasted for centuries. These findings force us to confront a sobering reality. The great civilizations of the past, the ones we often read about as collapsing or failing, didn't just disappear because of political infighting or economic weakness. They were often pushed over the edge by forces of nature that were simply too powerful to overcome. They weren't weak, they were unlucky. Nature, we were reminded, does not negotiate. These events weren't just historical footnotes, they were civilization killers. They show us that for all our advancements, we too are vulnerable. It is a humbling lesson from the past. Resilience is not just about building bigger cities or better armies. It's about understanding and respecting the immense power of the planet we call home. The fall of ancient empires wasn't a sign of their failure, but a stark warning of the fragility of existence itself. When you take all the discoveries of 2025, the domestic life at Göbekli Tepe, the evidence of forgotten cataclysms, the genetic trails leading back to unknown migrations, and you place them all on the table together, one undeniable truth emerges. Our story, the story of humanity, is so much older, so much smarter, and so much messier than we were ever taught in school. The neat timelines we memorized, with their clear ages of stone, bronze, and iron, begin to dissolve. We see now that these weren't distinct, sequential chapters. They were overlapping, interconnected eras, with pockets of incredible sophistication existing alongside so-called primitive cultures. We see evidence of maritime trade networks thousands of years older than we thought possible, connecting continents we believed were isolated. We find astronomical alignments in structures that predate the pyramids by millennia, suggesting a deep, ancient understanding of the cosmos. Our history is not a straight line of progress leading inevitably to us. It's a tangled, intricate web. It's a story of false starts and remarkable comebacks, of knowledge gained, lost, and rediscovered. And perhaps most importantly, it's far more connected than we ever knew. The DNA, the artifacts, and the myths all point to a shared human journey, a global story of survival and innovation that ties every single one of us to a past that is more profound and mysterious than we could have ever imagined. The year 2025 wasn't just a great year for archaeology. It was a profound reminder. A reminder that the past isn't dead. It's not even past, it's patient, It lies dormant beneath our feet, waiting for the right moment, the right technology, the right inquisitive mind to bring its stories back into the light. The earth holds our collective memory, preserved in layers of soil and stone. And when it finally decides to speak, through a flood that reveals a lost city or an excavation that uncovers a forgotten world, we'd better be ready to listen, because every discovery isn't just about them, the people of the past. It's about us. It redefines who we are and where we come from. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Subscribe to Beyond the Scroll, because history isn't finished talking.